Well, the skeletal remains of this 11-passenger Yellowstone coach has been the foundation of getting to where we are so far. And the nice thing about it is it's had most of the original iron with it. The wood has been pretty rotted, but it has given us a pretty good idea of what the patterns and measurements need to be. Now, from past coaches, I have salvaged and retained remnants of those coaches as well. And what's left over from this one will go into that archive also for future reference down the road, either for myself or somebody comes along behind and wants to pick this up. It's just an invaluable source to go to and get some measurements, even though there are some variations between coaches over the time frame that they built these things. There are some irons that need to go on the front of this driver's box. One that helps hold the chains that holds the footboard for the driver. If you remember, we went through this on building that mud wagon. And then there's also another rod that comes across through the framework and comes back and bolts down to the main frame that kind of stabilizes this front driver's box from falling forward. And I have the old right side off of this coach. I don't know what happened to the left side. This is the only side that we have. But this is a 3/8 rod that comes through these two vertical frames and then comes down to the main body frame. And this is the hook that holds the chain that goes down to the driver's footboard. Well, I had taken measurements of where these irons needed to be to try to make sure I didn't have a screw for the side panels that actually would interfere with any of these. So I had drawn out the placement of this hook, and it has a square hole that receives it right here. And then this is the placement of the rod that goes back to the main frame. There's a couple of rivets that come through the main frame and the panel, and I marked those out here also. So I wanted to make sure that when I put screws in the side panel that none of these screws were going to interfere where some of this other iron work needed to go. So I marked out some allowable spots for screws, and that's where I put them. One here, and one here. Down on this panel it didn't matter so much. But I wanted to make sure that none of these were going to interfere when I came to the point where this iron needed to go in, and that time is here. So when I was looking at this frame, it stood out to me that this rod was not sitting square with the framework. So I put a tape measure on it from the top of the frame down. I'm at 10 inches in the front, but in the back side here I'm 10.5. You see what's at 10 inches? A screw. So I wondered if they didn't have to put this at an angle to miss this screw. This screw is what fastened the rear panel on this framework. And seeing that the screw is right there, well, they couldn't put that at 10 inches. So I wonder if that's why they had to drop that a ½ inch, why this does not run square. Just my guess. So I went and looked at the placement of the screws on my back panel. And it would be this screw here. This is at a curve here, but if I eyeball across, this is about 10.5 inches where this screw is. So if I was to bring this straight across at 10 inches, I would actually miss this screw and have this rod coming through square. It would come through about this area here. So, not thinking really in particular where I place these screws, but by pure accident, I think I can run this rod square instead of out of square like it was on the original. So as much as I try to look down the road, and I'm sure they did also, but I think this is one case where they went, oops, we got to make an adjustment here. Completely logical. But I think I can actually run it square, really just by an oops. It just happens to work out. Well, now most of you that have your thinking caps on realize that when I change this position, I'm going to affect the length here. So I haven't marked out 10 and 10 on the outside of my driver's box here. So if this was at 10 and 10 and a half, and I pick this up, I am also picking this end up away from the main frame. So this length is no longer going to be correct. So if I move this to the inside and hold my front at 10 and this point here at 10 and a half, you can see I'm going to touch down here. But if I pick this up to 10 and 10, that makes quite a difference down here. Now I could just bend it here and bring it down, but these are the two bolts that fasten to my rocker irons, so then that's going to interfere. This actually needs to bolt out here past the plate of that rocker iron that these two bolts go through. So I'm going to need to add maybe an inch. On the old original frame, you can see this is the imprint of that rocker iron, and these are the two bolts. And this is the placement where that rod needs to be, just back of this rocker iron plate by at least maybe an inch. So if this is that plate for this rocker iron here, and if I come back an inch, I need to be back into this category here and kind of transfer that up and across to where that might be inside. And we need to be about right in here. So if I try to get a measurement from where my 10 inches is going to be up here, I need to be about 19 inches at least. And the length that I have on my old original is about 17 and a half. So I'm going to add maybe an inch and a half even. So I think before I make the 3 more that I need, I'm going to cut this and put my iron stretcher on that and make this one fit to make sure all my measurements are correct. And for this hook, I need to make several of these as well. And this is 1/2 inch thick through the main body. I'm maybe 7/16 this direction, but I'm a full 1/2 inch this way. So my first thought was I have an inch by half that I was going to place this in a position like so, then cut this part out, cut this out, then do my tapering and my rounding for my threads, and I would have a square shoulder through here and end up with a duplicate for my hook. And then when I got to looking at that, that's a lot of wasted material that I have to cut this away just for this shoulder. So my second thought was, I have some 1/2 inch square stock. I could alleviate a lot of that waste and just take a piece of this square stock and weld it right here and create my shoulder. And then while this is still square, I can either swage just to a 7/16 that this is to thread this, and then forge this hook in where it needs to be. Or I could put my 4-jaw chuck on my lathe and turn this section down to 7/16 either way, whichever is most expedient. But with just a short little weld, this would be far less wasteful than going this way. Well, this gives me the length for my support iron for the driver's box, and I need 3 more of those. I think I'm going to start out with about 34 inches. I think that's about 1 inch long. And then for the hook, I think I have the foundation kind of figured out. I think this is going to be more efficient than cutting it out of 1/2 by 1. It's still a time-consuming process. I think maybe from looking at this after I sandblast it, I think maybe this might have been cast. See, this could have been cast with this hook straight, and there's just enough of the markings in here that kind of makes me wonder if it was. It's even done today in some buggy parts. Pieces that needed to be duplicated on a large scale could be cast with a malleable cast and then allowed to be heated and shaped and fitted to different buggies. These were so uniform over all the years that these coaches were made, I just kind of wonder. They're all just so similar. But I need 4 of these, and I have the foundation for 1. So what I'm going to do is take the time to make the other 3, and then 3 more of these. So I need 4 hooks total. Well, this hook here I had stuck in the hole on this 11 passenger just to make sure it was the same. This hook actually came off of coach that I have in storage. This one was missing, so I need 4 of these hooks, 2 for the 11 and 2 for the 8. So I think for efficiency's sake, to fire up that forge, I might as well have everything ready, and I don't yet. So I think I need to take the time to do that. And it won't fit in the amount of time that I have left. So we'll do that next time. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.